hello to all the joinees here today who all are joining us from all the different parts of India as well as abroad. And I really wish that all of you take away a very good learning today, because the topic that I'm going to take up today is not very easily, I would say, digested by most of the teachers, because being a teacher myself and being a trainer for now some time for now, and also being an observer for some time, I have usually come across these comments, I would say, or the feedback from teachers, that it's very difficult to prepare long session plans and be up to date with what is required and expected out of them by the school authorities and management, and what are the actual needs of today's education. So yes, and with this I would also want to add on that to do something exceptional and to stand out of the crowd, you have to be different, and you have to put in some extra effort, and you have to bring in that little pinch of your own creativity and critical thinking if you really want to stand out of uh, your other fellow teachers and in this teaching profession. So I'm very happy to conduct this session today with all of you. And the session is about the power of three P's, that is, planning, preparation, and pace. Now, all the three P's play a very important role when it comes to a teacher's efficiency in teaching. Now, it is a very common myth, I would say, in today's scenario, that anybody can be a teacher. But I'm sorry, my friends, not everybody can be a teacher. So you have to play multiple roles when you are in the shoes of a teacher and when you are a teacher yourself. Right? I believe that most of you here, if I can see your comments, and everybody's wishing good evening right now. If I believe most of you who all are joining today will agree to this fact that it's not everybody's cup of tea to become a teacher, stand in front of 30 students or 40 students or whatever is the ratio in your school and teach for a certain period of time, and that too following a proper method, a proper strategy, in a very methodical manner, right? So let's scroll through what we have today in today's session, and let's appreciate what we all are doing already, and let's take away some new insights which I believe I would be able to impart in today's session. So with this, I would want to begin my session. So let's move on to what are we going to discuss today and what are the objectives for today's session. So the first is we are going to explain the importance of session planning for effective teaching practices. We'll describe who is a well prepared teacher and how preparedness make your session more fun and engaging. We will also elaborate upon and discuss effective time management strategies while teaching, because usually this is a complaint that we don't get enough time, our time gets by and we are not able to complete our topic. So what can you actually do to manage your time also effectively and also deliver the content that you are going to deliver or teach effectively? So let's move on. Anju, I would require you to read me the question as well as the answers if teachers, if people are putting in yes. So the question comes up here. I can see, why is session planning important? So you all can share your option here.
Yes, the options which we have is ensure clear, achievable goals,
Right?
maximizes time and resource use,
Mm-hmm.
boost engagement and participation, and the
Mm-hmm.
last one, anticipate challenges, prepare solution.
Yeah. So what are the maximum options that people are choosing?
Right,
What is
right.
the...
So the maximum options, what most of them have chosen is ensures clear, achievable goals,
Yes, yes.
followed by maximizes time and resource use, boost engagement and
Hmm.
participation, and the last one prepares challenges with solution.
Yes, yes. Right. So how many of us, like all of us almost, like we all go for our trips, right? We all plan our family trips, we all plan our trips with friends. So how many of you would want to go unplanned, and what kind of challenges do we foresee if we go anywhere unplanned? Obviously it creates a lot of chaos, right? If you end up somewhere at a new place unplanned, and then you have to figure out then and there what I have to arrange, how I have to arrange, where I have to stay, where should I go to eat, it wastes a lot of time, right? And obviously you won't be able to fulfill your goal of going there, whether you're going for entertainment or you're going to attend something important, right? The same thing we can bring down to our classrooms. And think that if you enter a classroom unplanned, you are a master of your subject. I'm not saying that you don't know your subject. You know your subject, you're the master of your subject. But if you go enter the classroom unplanned, what all challenges would you face? Can you just write down in the comments? Maybe this is not the question that I put in the questions that I listed, but you can just share that if you do not go to the classroom with planning, what all challenges you may face as a teacher. Please put in few words, everybody. And a very, very good evening to all of you, those who are joining, and thank you so much for joining and taking out time. Planning is most important. We may land up in chaos. There will be mismanagement. Yes, it will be chaotic. We cannot complete the concept in discipline. Teaching becomes monotonous. Time management will be a big issue. I won't be able to teach properly. Learning outcomes may not be achieved. Time wastage may happen. Mismanagement and indiscipline. Very right, very right. So all of us know the consequences, right? But then we also have this complaint that, I mean, I don't have time to plan. So let's talk about more on planning, right? So moving on, thank you so much for all the responses that are coming in. So let's look at some facts here, though these are not facts related to figures or something, but yes, what happens in a teacher's life. So experienced teachers spend almost half of their non-teaching time in session planning, and this is true for all those who realized or have realized that without planning we cannot make it. Then preparation helps you lead productive, engaging session by optimizing the use of time and resources. Maintaining pace during teaching help teachers hold students' attention. So you see, if you look at these three facts, you will also realize that this is our objective of everyday teaching, no matter which subject you teach, right, which grade level you teach, but this is what we expect, right? And this is why we go and teach, that our session should be productive, it should be well planned, and I should be able to execute it comfortably by managing the time, and also at the same time keeping my students engaged productively, isn't it? So moving on, what do we mean by session planning? Now, session planning is a process, and you need practice to plan your sessions well. The sessions which are engaging and productive and cater to your learning objectives and outcomes, right? So, you need practice. It is not a overnight job that you just attend a session today and you will become an expert by tomorrow. It is not like that. It is a process. You have to prepare, you plan, you write down, jot down your session plan, execute in the class, come back and reflect what you were able to do and what you were not able to do. right? Now work on those not able to do things, incorporate those elements in your next session plan, execute, come back and reflect. So, slowly and steadily, you reach up to a point where you feel a bit satisfied that yes, today I did a good job, right? And that thing you can only decide for yourself whether you were able to execute it well or not, right? So, session planning is a process, it's not a one time thing. Then, to create so it is a process to create a structured document. Now session plan is not something that you have just written down that today, okay, I'm going to grade 6, I'm going to teach a science topic, so I'll be teaching this topic and I'll do one activity so and so. But is there any structure in the document? Is there anything planned properly in the document? No. You may miss out something and you will feel okay about it, that it's okay. I mean, I just wrote down, I just jotted down the important points. And if I have missed something, it's okay. I'll do it next time. But that is not how it works, right? So what is session planning? It is a process to create a structured document. Now, what does that structured document must contain? It must include the learning objective, that is your overarching goal of a particular session, or maybe of a complete unit. That depends upon how you create your session plans, right? So, like if I have to conduct a session, I will have a learning objective for that particular session, and I will list some multiple learning outcomes that will cater to the skills of the children that I'm making them learn or practice in that particular session while teaching that particular topic. Okay, now, so what is it? Session planning is a process to create a structured document including the learning objective, learning outcomes, conceptual information, learning activities, formative assessments, and resources to be used while conducting a session. So you see how many elements you have in a session plan, which makes it a clear, structured document. So you need to list your learning objective, that is your overarching goal, learning outcomes. Based on the learning outcomes, you will decide or you will list the assessment, the kind of assessment that you are going to conduct with your students, right? Based on the topic that you are teaching. Then you will you will design some learning activities so that you will be able to assess the children on the basis of those learning outcomes, right? So the activities that you design, those activities should align with your learning objectives. Then the resources you will be using, what resources are you using for a particular activity? Now, for example, I give you an example here, a simplest example. Let's take a simple one. For example, you are teaching suppose the layers of earth, right? So what resources do you need for that? You may want to take out a model, bring a model to class showing the different layers of earth, or maybe you would want to show children a video based on the different layers of earth, or maybe you want to give them some handouts to read for 5 minutes and figure out what are the different layers of earth, right? So these constitutes your resources that you're using. Learning activities, what kind of learning activities would you want them to do? So once you have given them the material, they have understood what they have to do, or maybe you have explained them something and they have understood, then you're giving them some activity to do, right? So what activity? It can be a hands-on activity, it can be a drawing activity, it can be a discussion based activity, it can be a presentation which children may prepare for 1 or 2 3 slides and then present in the class. So depending upon the availability of your resources and how you want to execute that activity with children. Okay, so all these things, and then you have your formative assessment by the end of the session, where it can be related to the topic, like a quick quiz you can ask. You can quickly show them an outline diagram and ask them to identify the layers of earth that we have discussed today, right? So like this is how your session plan should look like and contain all these elements. So the question here that pops up is, why do you think session plan has to be structured properly? So Anju, can you please read me out the responses?
Yes, yes. So the options which we have is ensure a smooth flow of activities,
Mhm.
helps meet learning objectives, keeps participants focused and engaged, prevents time wastage and confusion.
Okay. So where people are, though all of these are true, but what do you think is the most appropriate? I mean,
The more,
as a
yeah, so the yeah, the most bold answer is the first one. Ensures a smooth flow of activities,
hmm, hmm.
and then followed by helps meet learning objectives, maintain
Yes.
focus and engagement, and then last one prevents time wastage and confusion.
Yes, yes. So when we are going as a teacher, so teacher is a leader in the class. You are an instructor, you are a mentor, you are a facilitator, playing different roles at different times while you are executing a session. So if you go unplanned, you yourself will stay confused during the session. What should I do next? What should I do next? So your mind will be involved in thinking, what should I do next? Not what you are doing at that moment. Okay, so that will create a lot of difference between what you're transacting and what your children are getting, because children are very smart. Please understand, teachers, all those who have joined me today, children in today's generation are very smart. They gauge your confusion, they gauge your underconfidence, and they also get to know that our teacher is not prepared well. So let's not give this chance to our students, and let's meet their expectations and something which they are not even expecting out of us. So we have to be a step ahead of them so that we don't give our children a minute to be disengaged during the session. That makes an effective session and that makes a productive session, right? Moving on. All right. So when we talk of session planning, so what we as an educator be prepared with, what are the prerequisites for a session planning? So session planning is a very thoughtful, creative, and logical process. You cannot make, believe me, I have been teaching for the last 15 years, and I could never make a session plan in 10 minutes or 15 minutes. It always took me 30 to 40 minutes to plan a one session. And I have been doing it because when I got into the practice of doing it, I could not satisfy myself if I have just rushed over certain things, right? So it is kind of a habit that you develop with time. When once you start doing a very good work, you cannot settle down for an average or poor work, right? So that is the standard that you set for yourself, right? And also it's very interesting because once you get into the process of creatively thinking about your session plans and creatively planning or logically planning your sessions, you start enjoying the process, you start enjoying that. And also our mind is such a thing that the kind of environment, the kind of thinking you make it to think, I mean the kind of things you make it to think, it will follow you religiously. So let it think creatively, give it the opportunity to think creatively, give your mind the opportunity to think logically when you are planning for your children, right? When you are planning to teach your subject to your children. So be creative, be imaginative, be logical, be very thoughtful when you are planning your sessions. And what are the prerequisites? First thing, of course, not to be missed, the in-depth knowledge of your subject. But please do not settle down for whatever you have learned so far. I mean, if I have done my masters back in 2000 something something, so and if I think that today if I have to teach chemistry, I will rely on my learning at that time, I'm totally wrong. So keep upgrading yourself in your subject as well. Do not be stringent about your degrees and your knowledge of the subject. You will find many new things coming up, and keep upgrading yourself for that. Second thing is critical and creative mindset. First you need to develop that mindset that if suppose I have been teaching in a traditional school for some time, and then I got appointed in a progressive school which expects me to be very much technologically smart, creative, imaginative, and experiential in my teaching, and then I say that, oh my god, I can't do it, I have not been doing it, and I cannot do it. So that's the end of the story. That means I am not at all thinking creatively, I don't have that growth mindset, right? So when we think of teaching children creativity, when we think of teaching children creative thinking, the skills, we have to be that in the first place. So you are the model for your children. So be creative and critical when you are designing your session plans. Then confidence plays a very, very important role. What if you are teaching and you just forgot what you were supposed to do next, or maybe you, it just skipped off my mind how to teach that particular concept? What will you do? Just write down in the comment section. Has this happened with you ever, that you are teaching in a flow and suddenly something happens and you just go blank in front of the children, and your teacher, your students are expecting something from you, but you're not able to produce that in front of them? So what have you felt at that moment? Anybody who wants to write down in the comments? We'll ask a general question, okay? Ask questions and reflect. Yes. So, what do you feel when something like this happens? And it has happened to everybody, I guess. With me also, it must have happened. I don't remember an incident, but it may have happened. Yes, I will drink water and relax. Nice. Okay, I'll come back on this. All right, Harpreet ji, we can't teach lesson properly. We can ask them where we did we stop. Okay, I accept that I forgot. Actually, ashamed, feel embarrassed. Okay, pause and reflect. Quickly, I run to my colleague. I turned it into a case study, not exactly, but we can say children will, we will revisit again. Yes. So yes, when you say, when so these kind of responses where you're saying that, you will say, oh my god, I forgot what I was supposed to say next. And then if you say, okay children, let's pause for a minute, recall what we just completed, and then let's start again, take a minute's break, right? So you have to be, yes, improvise. So you have to be a bit smart in this case. There your confidence plays a role. How confident you are, so the way you stand, your body language, your facial expressions. Even if you forget something, all of us are humans, right? And teacher is somebody who is constantly into a learning phase. So it's okay. We are also students, our students are also students, right? So it's okay. So your confidence plays a very big role when you are standing and teaching students. So it's okay. Sometimes we forget. So give me a minute, children, I'll get back to you, right? Or you just revise what we just did and I'll get back to you in a minute. Or maybe I simply say, oh my god, I just forgot what I was supposed to say. Ask children only. They will only guide you further, that, oh sir, you were here, or ma'am, you were here, and we were talking about this. And then you can catch up, right? So confidence, do not lose your confidence in class, because that confusion, that anxious attitude of yours seeps into your children as well. So there will be students in your class who are very sensitive. So when they will observe you like this multiple times, they will carry forward these traits into their life as well. So please do not let yourself down. Yes, you can accept that I forgot, it's okay, perfectly fine, but be confident. Then resourcefulness. What if, now another question from my side is, there is one in the poll also for all of you, but one question from my side. What if you, Anju, is there anything? Okay. So my question is, what if you went to class with a session plan which required projector or your smart screen to be used in the class, and the light goes off, there is no connectivity? How many of you have landed up in this situation? Tell me. And what have you done at that moment? Just a quick one word, two word answer I would want. Please write down. So the question for you in the poll is, what will be the most probable consequence of an unplanned session?
Yeah. So the options which we have here is indiscipline in the class,
Hmm.
disengagement of the students,
Hmm.
inefficient delivery of the content, wastage of time.
Yes. What will be the consequence? First, you can answer this, and then my next question, that is, you went to a class where you had planned to execute your session with the help of technology or projector or smart screen or whatever you have in your class to assist you, and the light goes off. What will you do in that case? Or what have you done in that case ever?
Yeah, so let me share
Point.
the poll answers for this one.
Yes.
The
Yes.
poll here is ineffective content delivery,
Right, right. Very
and
true.
followed by disengagement of students,
Hmm.
and followed by indiscipline in the class, and the last one, wastage of time.
Hmm. Right, right. Okay. So the answers to the question is use the board or any other method. It's going very fast. Okay. Ineffective. I used the whiteboard. All right. Carry on the session as one rules. Okay. I'm not able to read the full comment. Tell a story related to the topic and engage them in an interaction. We'll get back to you on that. Okay. Took the topic with the book. I used my whiteboard. Can't see. Started plan B. Yes. So, okay, tell me out of the four options, creativity, imagination, critical thinking, and what would say? Okay, out of three only. Creativity, imagination, and critical thinking. Which of the options or the skills you would use in this scenario where I'm asking that something went wrong when you entered the class and you planned to execute the session in a particular way? Your creativity, imagination, and critical thinking. Which of the skills would you prefer to use, at which skills of yours will be useful? Creativity, yes. Creativity, yes. Imagination, yes. Yes. Right. So you have to be creative. As a teacher, it's not at all the arena only of the art teachers. Okay. So every teacher has to be creative, every teacher has to be resourceful. So being creative is also resourcefulness, being imaginative is also resourcefulness, right? Managing your topic, managing your teaching in a way which you have not planned exactly is also resourcefulness, right? So be resourceful while planning. And also always keep in mind, I'll come to that in a minute. So how to plan an effective session? So take a note of the following points while planning a session that is effective and engaging. What all things do we need? So we need to read our topic well. I have been an observer and I have seen teachers, masters in their subjects, getting stuck in the minutest thing. So the weirdest things have happened, which I would not want to exemplify here, but I tell you means sometimes they totally get confused between the difference of ingredients and materials. What do we mean by ingredients and materials? Right? Teaching a lower grade, I mean grade 2, 3. And then simplest experiments in science, they couldn't perform. Why? Because they thought they were overconfident that ki ye to hame aata hai. This we will be able to demonstrate. But while demonstrating it to children, it all went wrong. Why? Because I didn't prepare. I didn't read through my things well. So read your topic well, whichever you may be masters in your subject, but please, when you're teaching children, you're teaching grade 10, 12, 11, 9, 5, 6, 3, come down to their level. That is the beauty of a teacher, that you can teach the subject by coming down to the level of the child and then transacting your content. Okay, that is the beauty of being a teacher. Not everybody can be a teacher, please remember that. Then state the learning objective and outcomes, a very important requisite. Design a quick formative assessment based on your listed learning outcomes. So your assessment should be based on your learning outcomes. For example, I have an example at the end of the session for all of you, but here quickly I would want to just exemplify this, what I mean by this. So learning outcomes, like suppose if I am teaching children about herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores, suppose, right? I'm sorry, I'm taking science examples, so I will try to take other subject examples as well. So suppose I'm teaching them herbivores, carnivores, omnivores. Okay. And in that session, I would want children to list the examples under identify herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, list and list and write down the names of herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, differentiate between carnivores, omnivores, herbivores, right? So I have three learning objectives here, sorry, outcomes here. For that, I am making children do some activities in the session so that they're able to attempt the assessment questions by the end of the session. And these assessment questions will be based on these learning outcomes that I want to test whether children have achieved those after my teaching and all the activities that they have done in the session by the end of the session, right? That is what I mean by design a quick formative assessment based on your listed learning outcomes. Then break your content into parts and design transactional methods around that. Chunking, which I'm coming to. What is chunking? So break your topic into parts and make sure that transition from one topic to another topic is very smooth. There should not be a complete disconnect. Okay, so make it, it may be that you are just taking two topics, but you are giving enough opportunities to children to understand those topics or learn those things in different ways by you design different activities around those concepts only that children get to know. Maybe in one they are reading and understanding, second they are attempting a quiz, third they are doing something hands on, fourth they are doing a discussion and presenting you. So concretizing the learning in their memory, that is how that is what is meant by designing those activities through which children learn the concepts well. Okay, so break your content into chunks, into small portions, and then design your transactional methods or the activities or the tasks around those portions of the session. Assign time limits to each section of your session plan. Very, very, very important aspect. Because when we talk about teaching time management to children, right, then what are we doing at our part? If I started, like, suppose I want to just conduct a recall section, am I taking 15 minutes for recall only? If I'm taking 15 minutes for recall, what is the time left with me to teach my current topic? Less time, right? So you have to plan. So what is the good practice of keeping myself planned as an educator? I will write down the time limits against every section of my session plan. Suppose warm up, that is a recall section, is of 5 minutes, and the content delivery section, or whatever you call it, the session flow, whatever you use, the terminology in different schools have different terminologies for the same. So how are you using? So if I'm conducting an activity during the session flow, how much time that activity must take, the tentative time limit you should be writing in brackets. So when you write down time limits against the sections in your session plan, that also time you as an educator. You also know that I cannot spend more than 5 minutes on this section, I cannot spend more than 15 minutes on this section. So that makes your flow very smooth and very logical at the same time. Okay, and you're able to engage children, you're able to give proper breaks, you're able to give proper transition, and everything happens in a good flow. I hope everything is clear till now. If anybody is having any question, please keep noting down your questions and we will clarify it at the end of the session, right? Okay, moving on. So yeah, this is something which I wanted to talk about. So be prepared for the unforeseen, though we have discussed a bit about it. So while writing your session plan, list down 5 things, if not 5, at least 3 things that may go wrong while execution of your plan in the classroom. If you will foresee something which may go wrong, then you will also be prepared for that. That is also a good thing to do, because these things keep happening. Sometimes your printer didn't work, so you couldn't get out the printouts of the worksheets that you wanted to give to your children. Sometimes your projector didn't work, right? Sometimes you had planned a test and half of the students are absent from your class. What will you do, right? So, like, these kind of things keep happening. So, in that case, what is your plan B? So at every time you plan your session, at least 3 things you must make a note in your mind, or you write down somewhere in your session plan or somewhere else as your personal note, what may go wrong today. So in that case, we are already prepared to handle that disaster, whatever may happen, right? So this is also very good practice to stay up to date and to stay very alert. Now, my next question is, so we discussed a lot about planning. Now, my next question is, what is preparedness for a teacher? So you can answer me in the chat. What do you understand by preparedness? We have discussed about planning a lot. Sometimes students make it very difficult to deliver lessons. What to do in that case? We will be coming to this question's answer in a while. Yes, so you can answer this question. What is preparedness for a teacher? What do you mean by this? Getting ready, prepare for students' queries, how much prepared to enter the class. What is preparedness for a teacher? Okay, so there are options for all of you. You can select. And Anju can read me the responses.
Yeah, so the options we have is having a well organized lesson plan, being familiar with the subject matter,
Hmm.
anticipating potential challenges in class,
Hmm.
being ready to adapt to
Hmm.
students' needs and feedback.
Hmm.
Okay, so
Hmm.
the poll we have got majorly is for having a well organized lesson plan.
Yes. Yes. True. Right.
Yeah, followed by anticipating classroom challenges,
Hmm.
adapts to student needs and feedback, and the last one, subject matter expertise.
Right. So, the things that we are discussing today, like planning, preparedness, and pace, it is actually the life skills as well. We do it daily. Okay, so I am going for a trekking trip, but I haven't prepared myself well. Now, what do I mean by preparedness? One is my mindset, my health, and what are the supplies? What is my gear that I'm going to wear? Do I have all that stuff with me or not? The same thing apply to the classroom, because nowadays classrooms are not simply going and giving a lecture and coming out. You have to engage children, you have to cater to their different learning needs, you have to make learning experiential for them, you have to give them a task which is hands on, they are learning by doing, right? So you have to incorporate some play methods, you have to incorporate the breaks in between the sessions so that children can absorb what you are teaching them, right? Giving them some time. So all these things require one thing, that is preparedness. Only ambitious planning will not make you execute a productive session until and unless you are prepared well for that session. What if I have prepared something very exceptional? Suppose I prepare with my students to suppose, let's say, listening activity. Let's talk about some language subject, right? So listening activity, so I want children to practice listening activity, but I don't have the appropriate equipment with for that, and I haven't taken a note that is everything ready at my end or not to give my children this experience in the class. What will happen? Your session will fall flat. So planning and preparedness goes hands in hand, right? So what is preparedness accounts for? It is teachers preparation of activities, resources, instructional strategies with respect to the session plan. तो आपने जो जो प्लान किया है, whatever we have planned, am I prepared to execute that plan or not? So what does preparation include? Your activities that you are planning, the resources that you have to arrange to conduct those activities. Instructional strategy is very important. How are you going to conduct the activity? Is it a group activity? Is it a paired activity? Is it an individual task? Right? How are you going to do it? So क्या है आपकी instructional strategies क्या है? That you need to list down, right? With respect to whatever you have planned in your session. So why is preparedness important? Again, so the preparedness important, it is important for these things that I've listed here. So a well prepared teacher is never lost and is extremely efficient. Remember this, a well prepared teacher is never lost, because your preparedness give you a boost, it gives you a confidence, right? So you go and conduct your things flawlessly because you have everything at hand and you know when to present what to your students. Okay, now preparedness at teachers part help teachers improve their teaching skills. This is for your efficiency, right? Improve your teaching skills, maintain classroom discipline. So somebody was asking me that sometimes teacher students don't let you conduct sessions. That happens when we lack in our preparedness or when we lack in our time management, when we are not actively interactive with children. Okay, so preparedness also is one of the most important component. Again, I'm giving my example. I have been to classes observing sessions where teachers would run in between of the session. Oh my god, I forgot this, I'm getting this. No, that is not the way. You cannot leave the session in between and go out and get grab your sheets, or you cannot leave the session in between and get something experimental to show to the students. No, you have to be prepared. You have to keep your resources ready. You cannot afford to waste time. That quick thing of yours or mismanagement at your end will leave your classroom indisciplined. So you see, you cannot make children, you cannot create discipline in your class. Why? By forcing children or by lecturing students or by threatening them or maybe by becoming firm with them. Your classroom will become disciplined on its own when your students are productively engaged. So engagement creates discipline. Please remember this, all my fellow educators here. Engagement creates discipline. Not that discipline creates engagement. This is not true. The more your students are engaged, the more disciplined class you will have. Because we are not giving them a chance to get distracted. Okay, it's as simple as that. Then it encourages critical and creative thinking among students. So when you're well prepared, you have all the resources, students are getting what they need to perform that particular task or at hand, on the side, prompt, then of course that time they will use in developing their critical and creative thinking, instead of waiting for you to provide them some materials, get them some materials and then start the activity. So that will lead them to some kind of chit chat, distractions and all that, right? Then able to manage her time well while transacting content. So some of you who were asking that uh, we are not able to manage time, so usually our time goes by. So that means you have not prepared yourself well for the session. So self reflection is very very important when you are in a teaching profession, because as I told you, everybody cannot be a teacher, and if you have chosen to become a teacher, you are doing a very very brave job. Okay, so take it as a compliment from my side to all the teachers here. We are exceptional. So stay exceptional and do exceptionally well in your profession. All right, now coming to the last segment of our session today, what is pacing or maintaining pace while teaching? Pacing is the speed at which we move through the lesson or session. Okay, so how do you move through your lesson? How many pauses you give? How much brain breaks are you giving? How many times you bring in variety in your session, right? So please answer the poll question here. Why is maintaining pace in a session important? Anju, please read out the options to the participants. Thank you.
Yeah. So the options we have here is keep students engaged and focused, prevents boredom or frustration from delays, ensures all key content is covered, helps manage time effectively and efficiently.
Yes. So you all can answer this.
Yeah. So poll, the maximum poll is for keep students engaged and focused.
Yes, yes, right.
Followed,
So
yeah.
yeah, you
Should
can
I
continue.
continue?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, please. Sorry. Hmm.
Followed by ensures all key content is covered, and
Hmm.
then efficiently manages time, and the last one prevents boredom from delays.
Perfect, perfect, right? Very good, all of you. So yes, pacing, like I am talking to you, so you can see the expressions on my face as well. I'm treating as if I'm teaching children in class only. So you can see that I'm smiling, I'm showing expression, sometimes I'm showing frustration, sometimes I'm moving my hands and showing, sometimes my body language is speaking a lot, right? Sometimes I'm putting a break, I'm changing my tone of explaining. So how you maintain that pace? Is it too fast that everything is going overhead, or it is too slow that children are just waiting for you to transit from one point to another and let's discuss something else? So your pace also creates a lot of interest and engagement in children. So your pace of the session has to be very optimum. Now, strategies to pace your session effectively. So what are the different strategies that we can follow? I'll just take up one by one. Now, what is pacing? It is a skill that help your students feel that the session is moving at just the right speed. At just the right speed means they are not missing out on anything, and at the same time they are very much engrossed and engaged and focused in your class. Okay. So what are the strategies? First is variety in activities. That brings in the creativity at your end, imagination at your end, and again the logical thinking. Okay, how can you teach one concept in two or three different ways? Be creative, embed that in your session plan, so bring in variety in your class. Chunking, so what is chunking? Also known as micro session. So chunking is breaking your full topic into small chunks, which you can explain in just few seconds or a minute or two, and then that is followed by students getting engaged in any activity. For example, you are teaching children how to read a map. So you have showed them a map, you have showed them a legend, the key that is used to read a map of the different features of the map. And then after you explain them in a minute or two, then you give the map to all the students in the class. Suppose you distribute the map to all the students, and then you ask them to read the map on their own, or maybe design some other activity on the same concept, right? That is chunking. So this helps in um, developing critical thinking at students end, and they also learn to absorb that information and apply that information and learn the skill of application by doing that activity which is given by you, right? That is chunking. Primacy and recency effect. Now, primacy is the thing that you do the first in the session, that is remembered the best by students, and recency, the thing that you do the last in the session, that is remembered the second best by the students. So that's why we say that in a session, when you start with your session, recall is very important. That is also known as warm up. So the warm up is very important, and recency, your wrap up, what you are doing, the reflection part, what you did in the current session is very important for children. That helps to concretize the information in their mind, and also enhances the retaining of information in their short term memory, which further becomes their long term memory when you keep retrieving the information from them in all the different ways or in all the different kind of activities that you do with them. Downtime is the time in the middle of the session, and whatever content you teach them during that time, or if you're giving a lecture or something, that means you that time, uh, that section, I would say, or that explanation is the least remembered by children. So the downtime, the time in the middle of the session, that is uh, between warm up and your wrap up, try to engage students in different activities where they are actually applying the skills, applying the knowledge, that they have received from you for that particular concept or the topic. So give them few activities to do. Then book ending and brightening lines, that is, you are assigning time limits. For example, I gave political map of India to children, and I asked them to identify four states in all the four directions of India and quickly write it down on the paper. You have 3 minutes to do it. So time management, the skill, the pacing happens at students end as well. Students know that, oh my god, it's 3 minutes we have and we have to do this skill, so their mind will work very fast and they will manage that time. Again, engagement, creativity, pacing, everything happens in that, right? So book ending and brightening lines means you are giving them a proper reading time. Suppose you are giving them a reading activity, so you children, you have 5 minutes to read this topic and let's frame two questions out of it. Okay, you have what to say, you have a plant in front of you, quickly identify 4 plant parts. You have 2 minutes. So this is what is called bookending or brightening lines. This is just a name of a strategy. Then organizing materials and resources saves a lot of time that we have already discussed in your preparedness section, right? So keep your materials organized, keep your resources organized, be ready, be completely ready for your session, right? So these are the strategies that you can use to manage your pace in the session during your execution of the session. Now, here is an example for all of you what I have talked about so far. So, it is just a generic example I have taken. I have not prepared a proper session plan related to any subject. Okay, so it is learning objectives. So, what is the learning objective here? Students will explain how plants and animals maintain balance in nature. So, it is an overarching objective, it is not very specific. It is something like you can use this learning objective for your multiple session plans as well. So for this particular I have used this. Then learning outcomes are the stepping stones which you will make children practice. I mean, by making them do some activities or designing some worksheets, designing some resources for them, which these, when they will practice achieving these learning outcomes, they will ultimately achieve their learning objective. So what are the learning outcomes? And learning outcomes always are supposed to be multiple, not one learning outcome. Learning objective can be one, but learning outcomes cannot be single. So, learning outcomes define the process of photosynthesis and respiration, name the gases released during these processes, analyze how the exchange of gases in the process of both respiration and photosynthesis help maintain the balance in nature. Okay. Then, formative assessment. Now, I will design some formative assessment based on the learning outcomes that I have listed. So, it can be in the form of fill ups, it can be in the form of an infographic, it can be in the form of a diagram, pop up quiz, or simple question answer. Okay, and keep it short and crisp, because formative assessment is on the daily basis that we assess students on, so it need not be very lengthy. Session flow may, what all things you will include: warm up. Again, see, I have given the time limits beside every section. So connect to the previous learning. What do we do in warm up? We connect to the previous learning or recall the previous topic to establish the continuity. Content delivery, what this portion consists of, 20 to 30 minutes chunk it is. Again, those 20 to 30 minutes can be divided by you into different activities, different portions that you are teaching. So it consists of introduction of the topic, breaking the topic into paths, mentioning strategies, methods, or tasks to be used for teaching that particular topic. Then the wrap up, that is your reflection part. So this part includes the recall of the current session and the topics taught. So it can be in the form of, again, a quiz, it can be a quick poll, it can be 1 or 2 objective type questions, it can be open ended questions for children sometime based on the topic or the subject you are teaching to reflect upon. And 2 stars and a wish. So 2 stars and a wish means, 2 stars means the best 2 things that children liked in your session or what they learned the best today, and a wish, that I wish it could have been like this, or maybe we could have done or learned this topic in this way. So this also gives you a view that what your children want, what kind of teaching your children are expecting from you, right? So 2 stars and a wish is a very good strategy to be used in the wrap up section. Best part of the session and the muddiest part of the session. So best part means what they learned the best, and muddiest what they couldn't understand at all. So this also gives you a view of the understanding level of the students in your class, that which you could deliver the best and what you need to work on, or maybe give them some kind of scaffolding to learn that particular part of the topic, right? So that's all from my side today. Now you can put in your questions if you have any. So what I want to end this session with, just end with this quote, that is, be the enlightened path for your children to walk on towards knowledge, courage, confidence, and virtues. So that is it from my side. If anybody is having any question, you can ask.
Yes, thank you, ma'am, for this very engaging and informative session for a community of teachers. And I'm pretty sure that our teachers have taken a lot of takeaways from this session. Let me check if there are any questions from the audience side. And yes, I would request if you have any questions to post on the chat. Yeah, we are getting comments on
Thank
superb
you,
session.
everyone. There are so many compliments. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. I'm really elated that all of you found it interesting and informative, and I'm looking forward to most of you not getting upset for planning, preparing, and keeping a pace in your session. So, yes, as I told you in the starting, that exceptional things take exceptional efforts also, and we all are exceptional. So give yourself a pat for doing the wonderful job that you all are already doing, and keep growing, keep shining. And thank you, CENTA, for giving me this opportunity to conduct this session with all the educated community here. I'm always very happy to be associated with CENTA and conducting these kind of informative and nice sessions with all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, yeah.
Yes. So I can see many comments on the feedback form. So I'm taking you to the steps. Now, if you have registered and filled out the feedback form for this session, check your participation record in the app in My Learning session. I will guide you through the instructions. The step one is open the CENTA app on your device. Step two, navigate to the ongoing webinar session. Step 3, click on submit feedback. Please note that this option will be available at 6 p.m. Step 4, during the end of the session, we will share a 4-digit code required for feedback. Enter this code, access the feedback form. The code for today's session is 5449. And step 5, complete the feedback form and you will be able to download your record of participation instantly. So I'm again repeating the code for the feedback form for today's webinar is 5449. This new process was introduced to streamline your experience and ensure your participation is instantly recognized. Thank you so much to all participants for engaging with us today. To register for more such webinars, please visit the CENTA app. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a